All right, well, good morning, folks. Thanks for being here. I know we'll have a few other folks flowing in, but I want to get started. Great opportunity here today with Mr. Gary Richardson, retired from the Air Force and the Air National Guard, and we'll get a little more on his bio, and then we'll get right into his presentation. I had the nicety to be able to talk to Gary for about 20 minutes up in my office, so this is going to be a good session, and I'm looking forward to it. Before we introduce Gary, I want to introduce Brian Jones. Brian Jones is our African American Special Emphasis Program Manager, and so he flew up from St. Louis Creek, where Brian does his day job for us down there in Norfolk. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Brian. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for being here, and I really appreciate your willingness to engage and make a positive difference here at the division. So thanks, folks. I'm going to turn it over to Brian. Brian?
Thank you, and thank you for welcoming me up to this warm place in Newport. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Division Newport National African American Black History Month celebration. As part of the celebration, we are welcoming Mr. Gary Richardson, who is an award-winning diversity and equal opportunity expert. With over 20 years of experience, he is the winner of the 2017 Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, 2010 Equal Opportunity Director of the Year, and 2009 Blacks in Government Meritorious Service Awards, among many others. He has a prestigious career spanning over 27 years and is a proud retired member of the New York State Police, where he held the rank of technical lieutenant and served as the Equal Opportunity Compliance Officer. Featured in a Dynamic magazine as one of the nation's top diversity trainers, Mr. Richardson also worked as a subject matter expert on equal opportunity issues for law firms. He also is published author of the Beyond Demographics, The Truth About Diversity. Let's welcome Mr. Richardson to Newark, Newport.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. All right. So when Don invited me here, he didn't tell me everybody was going to be so tall. Commander's tall and Brian's tall, but I like it. So I want to first thank you all for inviting me out here. This is a pleasure for me to do it. This is not a job for me. This is my life. And as I go into the presentation this morning, you'll see exactly what I mean by that. But I just have a bone. Where's Don at? Okay, I just got to make sure I know where you are because I got a bone to pick with him. So he's telling me about coming up here to Rhode Island and speak, and I'm all excited and everything, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be nice. He says, you're going to come up here to the Underwater Warfare Center, and you're going to speak diversity to all of our folks. I said, okay, cool, that's good, I'm ready to go. Then he shoots me this email later on that says, you are going to see the CO at 10:30, be ready. Now, I only retired from the Air Force in 2018. So when he said I'm going to see the CO, plus I'm a retired cop too, CO Don for me is something different, all right? So I started getting nervous. I called my tailor up. I said, hey, listen, I got to go to this Naval Warfare Center. You got to make me something to wear. And he says, well, Gary, what are you in a parade or something? I said, nah, man, I ain't in no parade. I said, I'm going to see the CO. He doesn't know what that is, never been in the military. I said, it's the guy who pays everybody. You know what I'm talking about? Just take the E out of the O, and that's the guy we're talking about. So he says, well, Gary, I can't make you a uniform, but I will hook you up. So, sir, I just want to let you all know that in the flavor of being here at this Naval Warfare Center, this is what my tailor hooked me up with. He made sure he put the anchors, the compass, and everything else in there, all right? Now, Don, you owe me $500, buddy. So I'm just putting that out there, okay? So the captain, all right, he's the guy with the E in there, right? So this morning, okay, for the rest of your folks who aren't here, I want you all to start texting them and telling them about what they're about to miss, because we're going to have some fun, okay? My background has introduced me to diversity in a much different way from what you may have heard in prior sessions or from anywhere else. And as you heard in the introduction, I am a retired New York State trooper. I spent 21 years out there on the road doing the job. And when you have a career where your actions determine somebody's life, you start thinking about things a little bit differently. You stop worrying so much about what that person in the next seat looks like, and you start asking yourself, what can they do? What sort of skill set do they have? Because at the end of the day, I want to go home. All right? So my perspective is not the kumbaya type of diversity. It's coming from a perspective of performance. And I want you all to remember that. If you don't have performance, you're not talking diversity. All right? You all stay with me. So if I were to ask you all, when do you think this thing called diversity actually started? Around what year would you say you think that diversity actually was created? Oh, see, I got cop eyes. You were waving at somebody, but you were volunteering to answer that question, weren't you? See, you can't do that with me. I retired, but my eyes aren't retired. So what year, since you volunteered, yes, what year do you think diversity was actually created, or the necessity for diversity was actually created? Give a good guess. What do you think?
I would say probably around 1950s time frame when schools were starting to integrate.
1950s? Okay, we'll take it. What do you say? Thank you.
Civil Rights Act, 64, 65?
64, 65? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'd say for the Navy building, it would be World War I when they started getting people of all different ethnicities.
Oh, wow. You've been looking at my slides?
No,
Huh?
I volunteer with the National Park Service.
Oh, see, you all need to go to the parks more and you'll learn more about diversity, okay? Thank you.
Navy Yard, come see us.
There you go. Hey, she's advertising. I like that. Okay. Very good answer. But let's start in the year 1820. 1820. Does anybody know what was happening in 1820? He said no. He looked at me. I'm saying no. You don't call on me at all. Say again, sir? Trail of Tears. Anybody ever heard of that before? Okay. What's the Trail of Tears?
Where they ship Indians off to the woods.
Okay. All right. Sure. But that's not quite what I'm looking for. You raising your hand, sir? You all got to be careful with me. You scratching and itching and raising hands. I'm calling on you. Okay? 1820. Let's start right there. And people often ask me this, Gary, why is diversity a workplace necessity? And it all began way back then in 1820. We're going to start off with a little history lesson. All right? In 1820, something happened in this country that's critical to me being here today.
Railroads?
Close. Close. What was happening during the time of the railroads being built? Think about an age. Giving you a hint. Call a lifeline if you need one. How about this? The Industrial Revolution. Anybody ever heard of it? Okay. The Industrial Revolution, 1820. During that particular time is when diversity started to get its legs. All right? During that particular time, the industrial age took us from making products and goods with what? Hands, right? Where did we make them? In the home. Okay? But the industrial age did what? Took us into factories with machines, right? So we don't call them factories anymore. What do we call them? Companies, right? All right? Follow me. This is the industrial age. Something else was occurring in this country during this particular time. When we talk about immigration, all right, often we stay on illegal immigration, but we never talk about legal immigration. Because during that time, okay, starvation, disease, almost 1 million people lost their lives. And in Ireland, Almost twice that many immigrated from their country to other places, but 500,000 landed on the shores of America. By 1840, they accounted for over half, okay, of the migrants that came to this country. If you look at that span between 1820 and 75, 4.7 million to this country. Something else was happening though, same time. Anybody ever see this? 13th Amendment? The abolishment of slavery. What else has been abolished? It says slavery and what else? Say again? Okay, involuntary servitude. All right? All happening at the same time. Now, why is that second part, involuntary servitude, important when it comes to Irish, if anybody knows? I hear it. Say it again. Say it again. Slaves and indentured servants, right? Okay, folks, that's what we're talking about. But a lot of times you don't hear that part of it. You only hear about the slavery, okay? That's why that's there, because that was happening here in this country, okay? So think about that. You got the Industrial Revolution kicking off, and now you have these immigrants coming to this country. Native Americans were already here, all right? So now you have the formation of the country abolishing slavery, but you see that bold print right there where it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime wherein that party shall have been duly convicted. Do you all really know what that says? What does it say, sir? What does that mean?
It says that in a lot of most of the country, you can still compel prisoners to work for free.
Say that again.
You can still compel prisoners to work for free.
So is slavery really over?
No.
Or is it just a different form?
It's just a different form.
Think about it. See, some of you don't have to think about that. And that's important when you start talking about coming to work and working with people from different experiences and different backgrounds and different understanding. Slavery's not over. It's just in a different form. They call it prison. That's what they call it. It's right there. Okay? But all of this stuff is happening at the same time. But guess what else happened? Well, let me ask you all. You all look smart. So we already have the Irish accounted for. Who do you think is the second largest group of immigrants that came to these shores legally? Oh, you all been reading my slides. We'll see this if you're right. This also happened. The 14th Amendment, okay? Which granted citizenship to who? People born or what? What does naturalized mean? Yes?
Granted citizenship some other way. So if you're adopted, if you marry in, if you are somehow, if you were here when the nation was founded.
Wow. You need to come up to the front. Yes, absolutely. Okay? So that was the path to citizenship. All right? So now everybody that's coming here, everybody who's born here, everybody who has those paths to citizenship here, you're now becoming official. The door was still open. And everybody was rushing in, okay? Don't blame them, because I love this country. I would be rushing in too. That granted citizenship, all right? So now think about it. You got all of these people coming over. Now they become citizens. Now, guess what else happens? For those of you who said the Italians, look up there at the top. All coming here during the Industrial Revolution, okay? Who else came? Chinese, okay? They also came here during that particular time. And I can go on and on throughout the landscape demographically to talk about the different people coming here to America. But I point these out because the numbers are big. All right? They all came here during that time of the Industrial Revolution, and that Industrial Revolution created our first need for human resources. Not the Office of Human Resources. That came later when the complaints came. I'm talking about the people. All right? That created the need for human resources. Now, we're starting to turn the corner because this is where the case for diversity started to build itself. The industrial age was stimulated by those two things up there, World War I and World War II. Why? Who worked during those times? Who else? Somebody said, what? I heard it over. What'd you say, sir? Everybody, right? If you weren't fighting, you were doing what? Building planes, welding, doing something, you were working. Why? Because we had to support those two wars. Okay? So now we have this massive workforce during the industrial age, okay? And while white males created the ideas for this advanced society that we have, it was everybody else that helped bring it to fruition. All right? So when I see the USA or the United States, for me, that truly stands for us. Everybody in this room, your ancestors that took part in making this country what it is. And we came from everywhere. Okay? Industrialization created this institution that we all now know is work. When you all got up this morning, you didn't say, I'm going to do Navy, I'm going to do accounting. You said, I'm going to work. Right? That's what we do. And work, folks, if it wasn't for work and discrimination, what I'm doing right now would not be necessary. It wouldn't. You know why? Because work, folks, work is the only entity that we all have to do together. Think about it. We don't have to go to church together. We don't have to go to school together. We don't have to eat together. We don't have to learn together, but we certainly got to work together. You can't escape it. All right? So that puts us all in this fishbowl that we're in right now in this auditorium. Got to figure it out. All right? Discrimination, though, sets the base or bases for the haves and have-nots. So the minute I'm an outsider, sir, and I see you as a kid, say, balling, you coming to work with your nice truck and everything, you think I don't want that? Yeah, I want it. I want that too. I see you in a nice house, you think I don't want that? Sure, I want it. I want to keep up. All right? That's just human nature. So that creates the basis for it. People start to get hungry. And in an advanced society like ours, people come to work to keep up. You don't have to work to survive. You can scavenge. Anybody been to New York City, D.C.? I haven't seen too many homeless people up here. It's a little too cold. But you come where I live in Houston, you see it. They're surviving. They're living, but they're not keeping up. That's why they call it off the grid, right? There's people that don't want to keep up. Man, I'm done with this. I don't care anything about living in the city. I'm going up here and live in this cabin. Okay? We do it to keep up. How many of you have a cell phone in here, iPhone? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask to use it. Who has the very first one created? See? Well, they're on edition 89.2. Every time they change a pixel, oh, the new iPhone. And what does everybody do? They go out and buy it. You can't even see what that pixel does. But you want it because you want to keep up. We did not, I'm going to speak for self. I'm a little frosty. I got some silver in here, but if I cut my hair like this, you can't see it. When I was growing up, we didn't have no two cars in a household. Are you kidding me? You had one car. And if you got a chance to ride in it, you were lucky because we had to walk everywhere. Cell phone? Are you kidding me? We had the rotary phones. You all remember that? It'd take you 2 days to make a call, but it worked. All right? We didn't have all of these luxuries, but we survived. We did okay. We're here, right? We want to keep up. That's why we do these things in this society. But that creates this institution that we all call work. All right? Work is that institution. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no white work, no black work, no such thing. It's just work. If you build it, they will come. If you got employment, people will come. America does not have a problem with people knocking on the door. America has a problem with opening the door and keeping people inside the house. People show up. Trust me, folks, I'm a cop. I was a cop. One of the most dangerous jobs you can have. You should see the lines of diverse groups of people lining up to take that exam. It's a job. We didn't have a problem with that. We had a problem inviting them in and keeping them. To the point that what we had to start doing was, well, wait a minute. Before a candidate is disqualified, that person's packet had to pass a person like me, the EEO compliance officer. And I had to see why this person was being eliminated. And you know what we found out? This is the honest truth. How many of you know what a mega sci-fi is? Raise your hands for a second. Everybody turn around. Okay. All people of color. Think about this for a second. All people of color knows what that is. But we had candidates being disqualified because they had a Q brand on their bicep. You all ever seen that before? That signifies that they're in that fraternity. It's a brand, that's all it is. But because they didn't have that cultural awareness, you know what they thought it was? There you go. They thought they were gang members. Now think about this for a second. For the most part, if you belong to a fraternity, what did you have to do to be in that fraternity? Go to college, right? How many of y'all watch NFL or professional sports? When you watch it, look at some of those guys' arms. Q brands. So not only did they go to college, they're your best athletic people on the planet. But you disqualified them because you didn't know that little cultural piece of information. You just got rid of your best candidate. And you didn't even know it. So now guess what happens? Now let's say the federal government, because by the way, we've been giving you money, so we want to check to see how you've been doing on your numbers. Oh, well, we can't get candidates in. Well, you better. Now guess who they got to take? Anybody coming through the door. Just let the best ones go. Now you got to take whatever comes through. All right? Now, was that racism? No. It was ignorance to culture, lack of awareness. That's all it was. When I came in, we made some little tweaks, and we took care of that. But that's how simple all of this could be if you really understand what we're talking about, if you truly understand what diversity is. All right? So with this, folks, that institution that work created now needed that support of us. What I was just talking to you about earlier, that U.S. part, it needed all of us. Our advanced society, along with our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, the way we live, created the necessity for a process called diversity. Folks, all you got to do is go pick it up and look at it. It's that simple. It's not rocket science, but it's the science that helps us build better rockets because we can find the best people and we can tap into their abilities. You all understand what I'm talking about? All right? Okay, so all of these things created the need for this thing called diversity now because we're all working together, all of us. And what is it? Diversity is this, folks. It is an active process specifically created to foster productivity and work relationships amongst people who have very little interaction otherwise. Especially way back then, neighborhoods were completely segregated. Schools were segregated. So you kept all of this separation. Churches separated. Everything separated except for what? Work. So you got to have a process for these people who have never had any interaction to figure out how to become productive. Didn't start in the 70s. Didn't start in the 80s. The need started when this country was developed. Other countries don't have to worry about this. They don't have to talk this language because they don't have the diversity or a diverse group of people like we do. Their laws don't back that diverse group of people by rights and all of those types of things. So they don't have to talk diversity. Okay? But we do here in the United States. It requires full engagement from employers to employees, and then guess what? Employees back to the employers by way of productivity. That's what it's about, folks. This is not about being nice and shaking hands and being kind. It's about productivity. That's what you hire people for, right? That's what it's about. It must have a connection to performance, or else you are not talking diversity, you are talking affirmative action. Oh, somebody's saying, oh, he did not go there. Yes, I did. See, affirmative action does not require engagement. It does not require me to accept you. It just says, take positive steps. That's what affirmative means. Take positive steps to hire, retain, train. That's it. It says nothing about keeping you. So I can open that door right there and let you come in, and open this back door and let you go right out. And then say, guess what? We tried. It just didn't work out. Folks, that's affirmative action. I have no issue with affirmative action except for how it's been implemented. And I can tell you that I know for a fact that organizations have used affirmative action to have quotas to hire people. I know when I became a state trooper, we actually had 3 lists. You had a list for minorities, one for women, and one for white males. Sure did. And some smarter minds said, well, wait a minute, hold on. You can't do that. It's not legal to do that. You can set quotas for recruiting purposes to get people through the door. You can set that quota. But you can't set a quota to hire anyone except for 2 groups. Anybody know who those 2 groups are? Oh, hold on. Say that first part again. Veterans? Any veterans in the house? Did you all know you had a quota? Didn't know that, did you? But you out there protest. Oh, we don't like the quotas. Okay, dude, we want your job back. Oh, no, we got to keep those quotas. I went and fought for this. Yes. Veterans, folks, go look it up. Guess who signed the bill for veterans to have a quota in the federal government? Happened back in 2012. Who was the president then? President Obama. Yes, veterans, you have a quota. And if you go to get hired and that person doesn't hire you, there's going to be some lawsuits, because there already is, or they already are. Okay? So absolutely, thank you, sir. I didn't think anybody was going to get that one, but you got it. And people with disabilities, 2% in the federal government. Those are the only 2 groups. Not women, not African Americans, not Native Americans. We're not talking about little programs. We're talking about for the federal government. And understand something. Affirmative action, folks, only counts for the federal government. It doesn't count for the Walmarts. It doesn't count for the Googles. It's only federal government. But guess what the government did? They said, well, we're going to give you tax breaks if you hire veterans. Did you all know that? Oh, yes. Why do you think there's been such a push from these big corporate companies to get veterans? Because they're getting a kickback. Go do your research, folks. Or you can just pay me to come back and I'll continue telling you this. All right? That's what we're talking about, folks. So we don't necessarily, okay, when you're looking at diversity, you have to take the whole person. All right? The whole person. Let me explain it to you a little bit better this way. Now, I got to be careful how I ask this question, so I'm going to take my time with it. And we're not in biology class either. But what's missing from this specimen? Say again. Say that. Skin, right? Folks, the skin is only 16% of the human body. I already did the math for you. So if you got skin at 16%, what's left? 84, right? But we've been doing backwards math. We say, Gary, I want you because you're African American. You're black, which I'm not black. There's a crayon that fits me. It's called brown. But it's America, so I get it. All right? They say, well, Gary, we want you because you happen to fit in this group. Folks, let me tell you something, and I've already tried it. My skin color has never performed a task in my life. It hasn't. Because if it did, I'll be making deals with my blackness all the time. I'll be like, hey, man, listen, wake up. I got this gig for you in Rhode Island. What do I got to do? Man, you ain't got to do nothing. Just show up. Just show up and be there. That's it. Well, then what's the rest of the 84% of y'all going to be doing? Oh, man, we're going down to these organizations that really understand diversity. We're going to hang around and get a pension and get promoted. But I'll pick you up at the front gate when you get finished. Folks, unless you want me to show up and just stay black all day, you better hire me for my skill set and not for my demographic. You all understand what I'm saying? Now, don't worry. For those of you who think you hear me saying, don't hire black folks, I ain't saying that. All right? I am not saying that. What I'm saying to you is this. You get what you hire me for. Because I'm smart enough to figure it out. So if you don't want anything from me except for my representation, then that's what you're going to get. Because, see, I'm a high flyer, okay? I'm one of them guys, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to grind until the wheels fall off. But if you set a standard for me where you say, we ain't really interested in your talents, then guess what? I'm going to pull the Usain Bolt on you all. You all know who that is? You ever watch the past Olympics and see Bolt run? 20 yards from the finish line, he's taking Instagram photos. He's smiling, and the rest of the guys are trying to catch up with him. Why? He's that good. But guess what? He can meet your standard because you told him you don't really want nothing. So, okay, I can come to the Warfare Center and meet your standard every day carrying this coffee cup. Carry this piece of paper. You don't want nothing from me. Oh, y'all don't make profits for anybody, right? Wrong. You do. So you better figure out how to get my boat. Because if your daddy's name is not on front of that sign outside, the government don't owe you nothing. They can shut this down tomorrow. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You think you got comfort because you come and work for an institution that belongs to the federal government? Oh no, folks. Anybody ever been through a BRAC before? A base closing? They don't care nothing about you. It's business. And if I come and check to see how you're performing and you're not performing well, do I really need to be spending this billions on this center here? We can go get this money to somebody else. Don't kid yourself. You get too comfortable. Better recognize. They don't owe you anything. All right? So figure out how to get the best out of your people, and then we won't keep relying on stuff like this here to say that, oh, this is diversity. What's missing in this picture right here? What's missing? What do you say? He said people working. That's right. Everybody on break taking a picture, right? What else is missing? I'm going to let you in on it. I'll show this picture sometime and people will say, well, Gary, you don't have people with disabilities represented in there. And I say to them, really? Why? Because you don't see a walker or a wheelchair? So you're telling me that's how you know a person is disabled. Now, if I wasn't right now so scared that the lotion I put on my knees this morning didn't work, I would show you all the scars on my knees. I have 2 total knee replacements, plate in my foot this long with 5 screws. If I sit down for 30 minutes, it takes me 40 minutes to get my knees warmed up. My vertebrae are smashed together. I'm 100% disabled. Would you know it if I hadn't told you? See, y'all thought this cool walk was me just being cool. No, folks, what you are looking at is a limp. This is not a pimp. This walk is very necessary. The suit, different story. But the walk, that's what I got. But when people see me, they don't look at me that way. Imagine me pulling up into a parking space, because I got disabled plates on my car, pull up in a parking space and I get out. People looking at me like, Mom, what is that guy doing? Confront me and everything. Now I got to go into my whole history about what I did and have people crying by the time they finish talking to me. Man, I should have never said nothing to you in the first place. Yeah, you probably shouldn't have. You should have asked me who I was first, okay? So, folks, the days of seeing signs like this and saying this is diversity, nah, folks, we got to move beyond that. We got to move beyond these demographic tags and labels, okay? Because there's a big difference between being diverse and having diversity. There's a big difference. Diverse is this room. Diversity is action. You can't be diversity. You have to have diversity, and it takes work. You can be diverse all day. But like the gentleman back here said, where's the work? Where's the productivity? Unless you have that part of it, folks, you're not talking diversity. You're talking about being diverse. Okay? A lot of organizations have met that point. They become diverse, but they haven't got the ITY on the end of it. That's where I'm trying to get you all to get to, is to understand that this is an active process, and assessing it by numbers is misleading. Because how does that guarantee you success? Because you got numbers. Anybody ever see the movie Hidden Figures? I think that should be mandatory for everybody to watch when we're talking diversity. Because a lot of people will say, well, Gary, they had diversity. They had all those black women working there. No, folks, they had to run across the whole complex to use another restroom. How is that diversity? Their ideas weren't used at all. The diversity came in when that leader, who looked like you, sir, said, wait a minute, we don't need more black female talent. We need to get more talent out of the black females we already have. See, folks, don't go looking outside the warfare center trying to find diversity until you take care of what's inside here right now. Because each and every one of you will be the best recruiters that the Navy Warfare Center has ever seen. You're a walking, talking example. If I go home and say to my kids, they see me smiling when I come in from work, man, I love working for the captain. And I'm telling stories about how much fun I had at work. You don't think my kids are going to pick up on that? I worked, folks, in the New York State Police with people who had their entire families were troopers. The mother, the father, the kids, the cousins. Why? Because they're going home telling their kids, hey, this is a great place to work. But guess what happened? When I was the minority recruiting coordinator, I went to Spelman, Morehouse, all of these places trying to recruit African Americans, because back then that's what we thought diversity was. But I came back home and I asked every single African American trooper, hey, you got a son and daughter that's old enough to take the exam? Yeah. Well, are they taking it? No. Why not? You know what they said to me? I don't want them to have to go through what I went through. I'm just telling you the truth. Now, why is that? That one group has their whole 8 generations of people in the same organization, but other groups, one and done. I'm like a high school phenom. I'm coming in and I'm going out. I'm getting my retirement and there's no legacy behind me. So how can I go out and recruit other people who look like me when I can't even recruit my own kids? All right? That's because of the environment, folks. That's because of what you do here. You walk in and don't speak to people. You walk right past me and don't speak, but then I walk over, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Yeah, whatever. No, I'm not saying whatever to you, sir. You're paying me, so you're good, okay? But people do that. Don't speak to some groups or some people. That's the only person in your organization that looks different, but you pay them no attention. And you ask, hey, well, how come you don't speak to that person? Oh, I didn't know I wasn't speaking. You didn't? I bet you that person knows that you don't speak to them. I actually had EEO complaints like that. I kid you not. Lady came to me crying. I've been in this office for 15 years, and my boss walks past me every day, doesn't speak to me, but goes right to the other person's office, and they're joking and laughing and tee-heeing and everything. Come out, walk right past me again, go to the other person, laughing, tee-heeing again, and they've never spoken to me. I said, well, have you ever said anything to your boss? No. Okay. Why not? I don't feel comfortable talking to the person. Okay. So how is your work performance now? Well, it's hard for me to work because I'm stressed out because I'm thinking about him or her not speaking to me. So I'm carrying this around with me all the time. Folks, that's how this works. There's nothing difficult about it. I wish I could tell you that there was some magic in this, but it's not. It's about how we treat people, how we show we care. As the old saying goes, people don't want to know how much you know until they want to know how much you care about them and their situation and getting to know them. It's that simple. Try it sometimes. As a cop, I used to walk by and speak to everybody. Throw some people completely off kilter. Hey, how you doing? Oh. Because we don't speak to people. We straight face, we walk up, we take care of business, and then we're out. But the minute you start speaking to people, guess what happens? They start opening up. They start letting you in on what's going on in your environment. You start getting the 12 o'clock calls. 12 o'clock calls. What's a 12 o'clock call? Lunchtime. Yeah, it's that too, but it's this. Hey, sir, I know you're off today, but I just want to let you know your boss came by the office. Okay, I'm good. Everything at the station cool? Yeah, I took care of this, that, and the other. All right, good deal. What's that person doing? They're watching my back because they know I've got theirs. That's what it's about. It's really that simple. And if we can figure out how to get to the moon, folks, but we can't figure out how to treat people, coronavirus is going to tear us apart then. But if we can't figure this part out, this is easy. How hard is a hello? How much can you say in a minute? Think about that. Try it for one second. When you go home tonight, sit for 1 minute and say nothing but positive things. You're going to feel like it's an hour, but it's a minute. All right? So we need to start changing that mindset, and that's what I'm trying to get you all to understand, that if you don't have a connection to performance, once again, You're not talking diversity. I know people have worked hard to say we need more and more and more, but you got to have a way to get more and more and more and keep more and more and more. And you do it by treating people the right way. So once you get that connection to performance and you figure out what diversity is all about, now you can start treating people according to what you want. What kind of result do you want to get? You all know, if most people have been in a relationship, you know what works and what doesn't. It's the same thing. Okay? Same thing. So when I asked you all a little while ago about the cell phone, is there anyone in here who doesn't have a cell phone? Rotary phones don't count. Bag phones don't count. Everybody has a cell phone, right? All right. What are those little squares on the face of that cell phone? What do we call those? All right. Apps. So if I were to ask you all right now, without looking in your manual, without looking at your phone, how many apps do you have on your phone and how do each one of them operate? Could you tell me? Huh? Never even thought about it, right? So guess what that tells me? That little cell phone there has a whole lot of power and capability. But because you don't know what apps are on there, you're not using that phone to its full capability. You're using it for the obvious, the calls, the text messages, the emails. But some of those apps can save you time. Some of those apps can save you money. Some of them can save your life, but you don't know they're there. But guess what they're doing behind the scenes? Burning your battery up. They're just sitting there because you haven't discovered them. You haven't even figured out how to get to them. You don't even know they're there. Folks, people are the same way. Every experience that every one of you had created an app, unique to you. Anybody go to college? That's an app. Okay? Anybody get married? That's an app. Anybody regret getting married? That's 2 apps. Okay? All right? Every experience you had created an app unique to you, to your hard frame. But if I, as your coworker, leader, supervisor, don't know how to get to your apps, then I'm not using you to your full capability. And you're sitting there with all of this power and all these skills that nobody has tapped into yet. Okay? That's what people are. They're like cell phones with much more power. So we have to figure out how to tap into those specific apps to make them work for this warfare center. That's the idea around diversity. And as you see this plus I and plus P, I'm going to explain that to you in a little bit, but I want you all to start thinking about this phone. And what are you not utilizing in this people that's sitting in this auditorium? What are you not tapping into? Because I'm telling you it's there. In fact, Mr. Gomes calling me was a tap into my apps. My state police experience, my being an EO manager out in the field in the civilian and in the military world, apps. Okay? My life experience, apps. Playing college football, apps. Getting my knees replaced, apps. All apps. He called me up. We need to use your apps. Bring them on down. That's how diversity works. But if you don't know me, if you hadn't had a relationship with me, you don't know who I am or what I can do. All right? So think about that for a second. And to explain this in a little bit more of a legal realm, I'm going to show you all a court case that did not necessarily deal with diversity. It was actually talking about affirmative action. But I want you to watch and listen to the verbiage that was used in this particular case, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Right here, Regents of the University of California versus Bakke. This was about affirmative action in admissions to colleges. I just read this morning when I got up that right now, Harvard University is still getting attacked because they want to use race and all that kind of stuff in their admissions program. This court case reads, Justice Lewis F. Powell explained, in his view, it would be permissible for a university to employ an admissions program in which race or ethnic background may be deemed a plus in a particular applicant's file. Okay, but he went on to say, he emphasized, however, the importance of considering each particular candidate as an individual. Each person is a cell phone, all right? Assessing all the qualities that that individual possesses, and in turn, evaluating that individual's ability to contribute to that unique setting. He went on to say the admissions program did not contemplate that any single characteristic, in short layman's terms, would be deemed diversity. So I flipped it around for you all. Do not contemplate that any single characteristic automatically ensures a specific and identifiable contribution to your organization's diversity. Diversity is an active process, folks. It's not a state of being. So that when you get a comfortable number of minorities and women, we got diversity, we're good. No, you don't. You have what Laura Listwood calls in her book, The Loudest Duck. You have Noah's Ark diversity. Give me 2 blacks, 2 Hispanics, 2 people with disabilities, check. We got diversity. No, you don't. You got an eclectic room of people. That's it. How well do they work together? Are they part of your organization's DNA? Okay? Those are the questions you have to start asking yourself. Race or ethnic background, demographics, folks, this is what those are called, becomes a plus when assessing all the qualities that that person possesses, and in turn, evaluating that individual's abilities and, in quotations, opportunities. Because if you don't give me an opportunity, it doesn't matter how much talent I have. You're never going to get it. And then I'm going to take my talents like LeBron James did a year ago when he left Cleveland and went to Miami. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my talents elsewhere. I'm going to use them for somebody else. All right? So you got to look at the whole person when we're talking about getting to diversity. You're not ready yet just because you look diversified. You're at a point of representation, and that's it. We have to go beyond demographics and representation. Notice I didn't say go past. Past means you avoid it. What I'm saying is once I'm here, you got to go beyond what I look like. You got to get to my skill sets. And how do you do that? You got to know something about me. You got to know what motivates me. You have to be a motivator. You got to be a risk taker for our leaders. You have to take a risk. You have to take a chance on giving people opportunities. And when you give that person an opportunity, if they fail, so what? So what? I'm telling you right now that if you allow me to fail, it will be easier for me to succeed because I'm not carrying the whole weight of my group on my back, worried that if I mess up, it's going to be reflective of women. They're going to say women can't do it. Or they're going to say this group can't do it. Everybody else makes mistakes. Let me make them too. Let me make them too. And then show me what you need from me. And then I'll get it right. Okay? That's what we're talking about here. When I see, okay, and I know I'm going to get killed by this if anybody sees this presentation outside of here, but I don't care. I have to tell you like it is. Whenever I hear people use the term diversity and inclusion, it lets me know that you don't understand diversity. Folks, inclusion is an absolute requirement to diversity. You can't have it without inclusion. You can't. You can be diverse, but you don't have the ITY. If you don't include me, I'm just represented. That's it. Okay? It takes 3 components working together always for you all to get to diversity. 3, and here they are. Representation plus inclusion plus performance is what equals diversity. If you move inclusion out of there, you're going to affect performance. You're going to affect performance. If you remove the expectation of performance out, you're down to affirmative action. These 3 things have to be working together to give you diversity. Anything less than that, you're talking affirmative action. And once again, I'm not against affirmative action, but you can't use affirmative action to call it diversity because it's not. They're two completely different things. All right? Completely different things. There is no substitute for this. Folks, you can't forelens your way to diversity. You can't unconscious bias your way to diversity. And I know I'm going to get hated on for that one too, because people out there who teach unconscious bias are going to say, oh, he's taking money from us. No, I'm not. I teach unconscious bias for Facebook. See, I ain't tell you all that. We couldn't go through all that stuff. But I actually teach at Facebook, and I teach unconscious bias. But it's not a standalone class. It's a class under the umbrella of diversity. Why? Because unconscious biases are hurdles to getting to diversity. That's not diversity. Is it necessary? Absolutely. Because unconscious bias takes you from good to great. But you got to understand the base first. You got to understand diversity first. Once you understand that, now you can start talking about unconscious biases, because guess what? Does everybody in this room have biases? Absolutely. But guess what? Do my biases affect the workplace the same as yours if you're a leader? No. If I don't have no power or authority, I'm just an employee. I'm just a dude with an opinion with my biases. Sure, I may affect my coworkers by saying something out of line, but guess what happens then? Now we start talking discrimination and racism, all that kind of stuff. That's a whole different ballgame. But if your leader has those biases, and your leader, second, third, and fourth, have those biases, now that's a different story. They affect the workplace a lot differently than an individual. And it also gives an out for those people who exercise racism and discrimination. Because now if I'm one of those people, oh, everybody's got biases, so what I'm doing is okay. Everybody else does stuff too, so I'm okay. We're all the same. No, we're not. No, we're not. You're discriminating against somebody. I'm not. I just got an opinion. All right? So those things are good, but they have to have their place. They have to be in sequence. A perfect diversity training program, the way I teach it, you get this first, then you get the unconscious bias, then we can talk about inclusion later. All right? Because I've given you the foundation. Now you have something you can measure, you have something you can see, and now we can start talking about going from good to great. How the normal person, because we all have biases, how the person who has no intent to discriminate still has a bias that may affect you. That's how you go from good to great. Okay? That's what we're talking about. So here, folks, what is diversity all about? It's about attaining that optimal performance from the people that you have. You have a diverse group right now. Think of it this way. You probably have line numbers, all right, when you come to work in the federal government or for an organization like this. You can't just go and hire as many people as you want, because there's a number that's associated with that person being paid. So you can't just say, okay, we're going to go out and hire 50 of this or 50 of that. It doesn't work that way. You replace people as they leave, right? So now you have to deal with what comes in the door. And as long as your organization is one that has a reputation of treating people with dignity and respect, people are going to show up and knock on the door. They're going to want to work here. That's how you get them in the door. These special recruiting programs and all that, folks, that's good for representation. But it does nothing if I get in now and I become disillusioned with what I find. Nothing. Okay? So keep that in mind. We're not looking for compliance, numbers. That's affirmative action. We're looking for commitment, inclusion. That's what we want. Okay? So before I close, I want to just tell you a story about what diversity really, truly looks like from my personal experience. Everybody remembers 9/11, I'm sure. Okay. During that time, I was a state trooper, And I was also in the National Guard in New York. So that made the governor my boss on both sides. Right before 9/11 happened, I was on my way to fulfilling a lifelong dream of becoming an officer in the military. I'd always wanted to become an officer. I was enlisted, but I wanted to become an officer. 9/11 happened, and right in the middle of our process, the governor says, anyone who has not been federally activated, meaning you're going to war, your duty as a National Guards person is suspended because we need you in your police capacity. So that was a screech on my way to my dream. To add insult to injury, back then, I don't know what it is now, but you had to have your commission by age 35. I was 34. My last duty was in February. I turned 35 February 5th and ended my tour in New York City February 10th. So now my dream is gone while I'm serving my country and my state. I had mixed emotions. I'm sad because of 9/11. I'm mad because of 9/11, but I'm sad and mad because of me. I go back. I get a letter, formal letter saying, hey, you can no longer continue your processing. You've aged out. All right. I went to everybody I could think of. Hey, can you help me out? Oh, sorry, can't help you. Can you help me out? No, sorry. So I learned something, being from an underrepresented group. And this is what I learned. I no longer accept no from a person who doesn't have the authority to tell me yes. If you're the person that can only give me a no, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the person that can give me both. So I said, okay, no problem. I'm going to make an appointment to talk to my wing commander, my 06 at the unit. Make an appointment. He's in the office today at 2 o'clock. Be here. Okay, great. I go to the office. This is a true story, folks. I'll even give you names to verify what I'm saying. I knock on the door. 06 comes to the door, and now we got to go backwards. 2 years prior to this, as a New York State trooper, I'm sitting in a U-turn one Sunday morning. Oh, you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. And up over the hill comes this red Porsche, going a little faster than the suggested retail price. So I said, okay, it's Sunday. Let me pull him over. So I get out of the U-turn, catch up with him, pull him over. As I'm walking up to the car, I see a flight suit. Anybody ever seen the Air Force flight suit? Nobody wears those, folks, unless it's a pilot. Walk up to the car. I said, sir, you know I'm stopping you this morning. He says, yeah, trooper, I was going a little fast. And right there, everything stopped. And I said, okay, I can either write him a ticket or I can let him go. What do you all think I did? I said, sir, I know it's Sunday. I know you got your uniform on, but there's a lot of people out here that don't care about you being in the military. They write you a ticket anyway. I said, but I'm not going to write you. I'm over in the unit too. I said, I understand. Just take your time. Thank you, trooper. I really appreciate it. Phew, gone. Who comes to the door? Mr. Porsche. And I'm telling you right now, if I didn't believe in God, I did that day. I said, oh my goodness, there's got to be a God. And I started smiling. And I walked up to him and I said, sir, you may not remember me. And he stopped me. He said, yeah, I remember you, trooper. Yes, yes. I said, listen, here's my plight. I aged out, 9/11, the whole nine. He said, Gary, in this world, he told me this, you can get anything you want if you know who to ask and how to ask it. I got you covered. He wrote me an age waiver. When I went to AMS, our sister of officer candidate school, I went down, I killed it. 7 individual awards, I won 3 of them. And my new commander was there. By the time this 06 had left, he went up to the state and became a general. After a couple of years, he got a 2-star. He retired. And this time, I'm winning every award you can think of. We go to a retirement session. This is about 3 years later. He's in civilian clothes across the room. He sees me. He's talking to 406s. He abruptly stops talking to them and makes a beeline straight to me. He walks over. He looks me in the eye. He grabs my hand, and he said, I knew it. I knew it. He must have went to Vegas because he betted on black folks. And I liked it. He said, I knew it. And for a minute, we stood there, 2 grown men, tearing up. But what he didn't realize, he didn't change just my life. He changed generations for me. Because by him doing that, allowed me to not only become an officer there, it allowed me to go interview for my state police job and become a lieutenant. $26,000 pay raise, just like that. Car, Monday through Friday, making my own schedule. One decision did that. But it goes further. Now I was able to put my kids in the best schools so that they could get the best education, so that they could go compete. He didn't realize the extent to what he did for me at that particular time. I am walking, talking, living proof of diversity, folks. That whole scenario was diversity. It wasn't just me, because he looked just like your 06. He didn't care about my color. He cared about what I could do. It just so happened it was a plus because of who I was. When you get to that point and you can shake the hand of the person's life that you have changed, it's a feeling like no other. And I'm here because of people like that. I'm here because of people like Mr. Gomes over here. And I just want to thank you personally. I like giving people their flowers while they can smell them. Thank you. Because I've known you for a long time. And by you calling me here, you just give me a ride to the next part of my journey. So I want to say thank you for doing that. For you all here, nothing's promised to you. You don't know whether or not you're going to even live to the end of this day. And I know that sounds morbid. But for some of us, the way we treat people, we better hope that earth, this life that we have here, is all there is. Don't go with all your gifts and opportunities in your pocket. Help somebody else, because they'll come back and they'll give you everything that they have. And at the end of the day, folks, if you can do that, if you can have the experience I just had, when you ask about what's the return on investment from diversity and doing all of this stuff, here it is. As an employee, that's all I can give you. I can't give you a gift. I can't give you anything except for that right there, my performance. And if you just say hello to me, if you just treat me with dignity and respect, you'll be surprised at what relationship may form and what I may be able to do for you and your organization. So in closing, I just want to say thank you all for spending this few minutes with me here, actually giving this presentation. This is, for me, a blessing. You all have been great. I wish you all well. I don't know if we even have time for questions or not, but I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm good. I'm on your dime right now. But I tell you, if you all don't, do we have time? Okay, so we don't. If you all have any questions about anything that I've said, you can catch me afterwards, okay? All right, so officially, thank you all for having me here. Sorry that I got long-winded, but this is my passion. This is what I do. Forgive me. I will be here to answer any questions that you all have, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you.